Around noon, I made myself some instant ramen by memorizing how Mom used to cook it when we used to buy it regularly about a year or so ago. Though in the morning, I happened to find a sort of bag of chicken flavored instant ramen. Though the chicken flavoring comes from the seasoning, which tends to have quite a bit of salt. And the salt comes entirely from the seasoning, so if you could find a way to make the instant ramen taste like chicken, or however you want it to taste, without using that seasoning, you would almost certainly reduce the amount of salt content. Unless chicken broth and other kinds of broth contains nearly the same amount of salt, but I haven't looked into that. It was just a matter of getting 3 cups of water, although I couldn't find a 1 cup measuring cup. So instead, I used this to measure out 3 cups of water. And I couldn't even pour in all of the 3 cups because I think there was just a splash left in that cylinder. And what I poured in nearly overflowed the bowl I used to make the ramen. I was initially going to put broccoli in it, but after seeing how full the bowl was with just the ramen noodles and 3 cups of water, I decided against that, putting broccoli in as well. I recall Mom coming home around 3 p.m. from work. Throughout the day, I had been doing light work on the personal project. I'm currently working on the skull face mask, although there are a couple larger pieces of polystyrene block in my room that Mom would like me to use to draw some tombstones for the upcoming Halloween party. Though for that sort of project, I'm going to need more gray Sharpie markers, which was the primary reason I walked to Wegmans today. I also returned some container deposits and got back $3. Though while I returned those containers at Wegmans, one of the bins became full, at $1.70. Actually, wait, no, it was at $1.30. $1.70 was after that bin got cleared by a member of staff at Wegmans. Wegmans didn't have any gray Sharpie markers, and neither did our local Walgreens. Mom also suggested CVS, but if we did have a local CVS, I didn't know where it was. I think this was roughly from 3:15 to 4:15 p.m. that I went on this walk. By the end of which, I think the pads of my feet were a little sore, but they're fine now. While I was leaving the Wegmans parking lot, there's some people in a car that called out to me and asked me for directions to, if I recall correctly, ES If I recall correctly, it's most likely some kind of credit union. Though I didn't know where that was. The only banks I recalled seeing were Bank of America and another bank slash credit union that wasn't what they were looking for. After I looked for myself at both Wegmans and Walgreens, I asked a member of staff if they had any gray Sharpie markers, and I was told they didn't have any. And I didn't buy anything from Wegmans or Walgreens as a result, because the money I was given, a $20, was meant solely for getting gray Sharpie markers. I waited in line at the Walgreens because I didn't see any staff walking around like I did at Wegmans. Shortly after I got back from the walk, I did the dishes so Mom could focus on the broiler pan. Presumably that was for the salmon. While I had been walking in the afternoon, Mom had started thawing some of the shrimp we had got from Wegmans the other day. I always make sure to do a great job when I'm doing the dishes. Though these days I tend not to do it that often. To get all of the germs, make sure the dishes were nice and clean, I turned up the water as hot as I could tolerate. And then after I was done doing the dishes, because hot water isn't good when you have patches of dry skin, I applied some of the lotion that Mom put in my room the other day on my hands. And as a result, I couldn't work on that personal project polystyrene drawing for a little while. For today's work on the skull face mask, I made sure that there were 32 teeth exactly, because that's how many teeth a person has. For the early morning hours, I remember falling asleep and then getting back up several times, about sleeping for maybe 30 to 50 minutes at a time before getting up. Though I think that's because these days I mostly fall asleep in the late afternoon / evening hours, so it's trying to sleep with not much sleep pressure. And trying to sleep outside of your schedule. And nevertheless, I still managed to do it. It was around 9 p.m. when both the salmon and the shrimp was finished cooking. And with those things, we had some broccoli, although Mom said she didn't want any of the broccoli, so I poured all of it onto my plate. The shrimp were on these, I believe, metal skewers that are a little sharp at the end, so specifically the end that you use to push food into the skewer. So I was told to be careful with that. While eating the meal, I made some conversation with my mom about the upcoming Halloween and birthday celebrations. Some things that I'm looking forward to. Though I do have an idea of using a relative small piece of polystyrene to draw a jack-o'-lantern. And maybe doing that instead of one of the tombstones. Maybe. Thankfully, these aren't going to be placed outside, but instead, They'll be displayed inside of the house. I'm not sure if that's a bad use of this flask, but I was generally given a rule that I should always have twice as many candles as everything else, roughly speaking. Around that time, I told Mom about eating those leftover Pop-Tarts and Pop-Tart bites that were in our pantry closet. I believe they were months old, but they didn't seem stale at all to me. They were a bit crumpled, but were otherwise perfectly fine. Throughout today, it was pretty warm for a late October day. And it was also sunny throughout, including during that 3:15 to 4:15 p.m. walk that I went on in search of some new gray Sharpie markers.